Public criticism is like water off a duck's back to Malcolm Glazer. Will the Glazers just go away? No, the Glazers will not just go away.
They're up against one of America's most hard-boiled dynasties.
This is a businessman, and in business, what talks is money. That's the currency. Emotion is not the currency, posters are not the currency, and campaigns are not the currency.
Enter the Red Knights.
This is it. This is what we've been waiting for the last 5 years. These are serious people involved in the Red Knights group, but they're people with a passion for Manchester United and the finance to back it up.
The Red Knights are a round table of wealthy but secretive United fans fired up by the green and gold campaign. They want to put the Glazers' reign to the sword. But last Wednesday, exit the Red Knights. The Glazers, who claim they'd already turned down a bid of $1.5 billion for United, said, "We're keeping the club."
The owner of the house doesn't want to sell it. It's not for sale.
The Red Knights retreated, declaring United overpriced. They weren't willing to pay a king's ransom to tempt the Glazers to go. So it's back to the round table instead of United's boardroom table for now. So what, if anything, could persuade the Glazers to sell? It's really not as if they need the cash, or do they? I've come to the US to find out if there really is a pot of gold in the leprechaun's backyard. This is where Malcolm Glazer lives, a mansion backing onto the sea in Palm Beach, Florida. They call it Billionaire's Row. As befits a man billed as the world's 400th richest person.
Everybody says the Glazers are billionaires. Well, fair enough. This is Palm Beach, and Malcolm Glazer owned not one, but 2 beachfront properties in the really swanky private bit down there. But last year, he sold one for $24 million.
The Glazers also offloaded one of their companies for $74 million. Why did they do that? The family declined to comment. Is it because the Glazers might be struggling to keep their head above water? Let's look at the Glazers' shopping mall empire, First Allied Corporation.
This place is one of the Glazers' shopping malls in Houston, Texas. As you can see, it's furiously busy. The sound you're listening to is that of cash tills going ka-ching, ka-ching. Not. In fact, the place is more than half empty. It's losing money big time. What are the numbers for this particular place?
Our estimation right now is that they have an operating income about $500,000 a year, meaning that's how much rent they receive annually from the tenants. And their debt service right now, the amount that they pay to the bank is about $750,000. So we're estimating right now that they're feeding the property about $250,000 a year.
And this shopping mall is worth $8 million. The mortgage, $9 million. They call that negative equity.
That's not good news in a recession.
No, it's not. And with falling rents and disposable income falling as well in America, it's not going to get any better.
That's one shopping mall in trouble. What about the other 63 the Glazers own across the US?
The business is struggling. It's because of the recession. They took out very large mortgages on very inflated values. It's like taking out a 95% mortgage on your house just before the housing market crashes.
Meet Andy Green. In his day job, a financial analyst. He's been burrowing into the Glazers' shopping centre borrowings. But the bad news for the Glazers? Guess which team and campaign he supports.
The vast majority of these mortgages were issued by Lehman Brothers, who of course were the great disaster of the credit crunch. People like me can go and look in quite a lot of detail at those mortgages and at the shopping centres that they're secured on. And you can see the rents, and you can see how much the interest costs, and you can see when they start making repayments and so on.
The original mortgage documents are also available for public scrutiny in county courthouses in America. We've done our own research, and Andy Green's work stands up. On 63 out of the 64 shopping malls the Glazers own, we found a mortgage. And the debt in total, $570 million US.
And that's a bob or two in anyone's language.
$500 million worth of debt is fine if you can meet the payments. But the paper trail suggests the leprechaun is sitting on a pot of fool's gold. Almost half of the Glazers shopping malls are on a watch list. That means the banks are worried about getting their money back.
The Glazers have called the US property market appallingly badly. These are people who tell us not to worry about Manchester United's debt because they are great businessmen and because debt is part of business and because they can manage the cycle. Actually, in their core business in the US, they got it absolutely wrong.
Green has discovered that 4 Glazer shopping centres have already gone to the wall. The latest, Crosswoods Commons in Columbus, Ohio, went under in February this year. The Glazers had a mortgage of $3.7 million, but it's no longer worth anything like that.
The property currently is on the market for $1.5 million asking price, and most likely will sell for even less than that, which is substantially less than half the original mortgage.
Commercial property prices have collapsed across America.
We've seen this happen a lot where these loans now are underwater and the loan amounts exceed the actual market value of these properties, of these commercial properties. We're seeing this all over the market.
When the Glazers paid £800 million for Manchester United, they borrowed roughly $500 million of that and settled the rest of the bill with their own cash. Andy Green's research reveals that as the Glazers bought United, they borrowed a lot of extra money on the back of their shopping mall empire.
At the time when they suddenly had to present a huge amount of cash over here in the UK, they borrowed a huge amount of extra money in the US. And publicly, they didn't buy anything else that year. There is no other record of them buying another business, a big business. So I think one has to really ask, was the cash they put into Manchester United just debt, but from somewhere else?
We asked the Glazers to comment on their shopping mall debt. They declined.
We got the best team in the whole world.
The family's other big US business is the American football team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 2003 Super Bowl winners. Since the Glazers' takeover of United, the Bucs have had one of the lowest wage bills in the league. In modern sport, if you don't spend, you lose. And that's what the Bucs have been doing.
Whether there's a causal relationship or not, there is the perception that when the Glazers bought Manchester United and incurred a significant amount of debt, the spending that we used to see over on the Bucs side dried up. There is definitely a feeling or a belief that the attention is not on the Bucs.
The Glazers deny this, saying money is not an issue at the Bucs. But guess what? They've got debt there too. Mortgages of almost $100 million. The Glazers give every appearance of being loaded. 2 of the brothers live here on this fancy private island in Tampa. And, very handy, their speedboat, Red Football. The Glazers might proclaim their assets to be worth a couple of £1 billion, but they are, without doubt, debt billionaires. If you add their American debt to their British debt, we've discovered the Glazers owe a staggering 1.1 billion quid. Yes, that's 1,100 million pounds. But you do have to give the Glazers some credit. They might be big borrowers, but they're also canny savers too, with a little help from the British taxman. Because the family have loaded United with debt, the club is no longer troubled by corporation tax. They call it tax efficiency, but UK PLC has lost out already to the tune of roughly 80 million quid. So while we face rising taxes, United, the club that likes to boast it's the most profitable in the world, won't be paying corporation tax anytime soon. So how on earth did this happen? How could the club that epitomises English football around the world end up being owned by tax-avoiding, debt-laden entrepreneurs with no obvious passion for the game?
Surely someone somewhere must be regulating English football. What about the Football Association?